Yo, what's going on YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and we are taking a look today at the Buffalo Sabres, as the Buffalo Sabres have some interesting rumors here in the rumor mill. Potentially a Victor Olofsson trade. We'll be going over that, as well as this latest on Michigan defenseman Owen Power. He was the Buffalo Sabres' first overall pick in the 2021 NHL draft. So we'll be going over his future with the Sabres as well. So the first thing we have to get to is a little bit of some trade rumor news. Not the big stuff yet, but we're going to ease our way into it. So, teams are calling the Sabres with trade interest in Colin Miller and Robert Hagg, and that's from Darren Drager. So, let's break this down a little bit. So, Colin Miller is a defenseman that they got from the Vegas Golden Knights. Colin Miller was a guy that kind of he fell off a little bit in his time in Buffalo. I think a lot of guys struggle in Buffalo, and toward the end of his time in Vegas, he even saw a little bit of a struggle. But this is a situation where he's still a pretty respectable defenseman. Now, I don't think he's going to go for the first and third round pick of, say, a Ben Sherratt or a Mark Giordano, but he's going to be able to garner some value. Maybe a second or a third round pick and a depth draft pick as well. So you're not looking at anything super crazy here, but for the Sabres, I'm sure they would love to grab some more draft picks, and Colin Miller can do that for them. Kind of the same situation for Robert Hagg. Robert Hagg was a part of the Rasmus Ristolainen trade they made with the Sabres, or with the Flyers last summer. They ended up getting a first, a second, I want to say 2 seconds. Robert Hagg, they got a decent amount in that package for Risto. And unfortunately, Robert Hagg looks like it was kind of a one-time thing. Unfortunately, it just doesn't seem like he really fits with what the Sabres are looking for. And quite frankly, I don't think Robert Hagg wants to sign there. There's a spot for him in the lineup, but it just kind of seems like as the years go along, Buffalo's going to get younger. Their prospects are going to develop, and we're just not going to see a guy like Hagg be in the long-term future. So I understand why the Sabres would look to get rid of both those guys before the deadline. This is also from Darren Drager. Buffalo Sabres forward Cody Eakin should draw some trade interest at the deadline. Again, another Vegas Golden Knight. He played for the Dallas Stars. Cody Eakin kind of was just a throwaway contract to the Buffalo Sabres. He was kind of exiled, and unfortunately he's dealt with some health issues, which has been a huge part of his regression in the NHL at the pro level. But Cody Eakin could be a guy, again, he's got that veteran experience that teams are going to look at and say, yeah, he's been there before. He may be a guy that's, needs to be called on in game 5 or 6 of a playoff series. There you go. You could fit in a guy like Eakin down the middle. So this is from Elliot Friedman, and we're getting to the bigger stuff here. On After the Whistle podcast, I've heard, barring anything majorly shocking happening, Owen Power is going to sign for the Sabres this year after Michigan's season is over. Michigan actually disappointed this year. Michigan was not the big dog in the Big Ten that we thought they would be. Really, for the last couple years, it's kind of been between Penn State and really Ohio State's been in the mix too, Michigan and Wisconsin. And unfortunately, Ohio State is actually the top team right now in the Big Ten, and they are further up in the rankings right now for college hockey. So unfortunately for the Michigan Wolverines, it's been kind of a down year considering all the superstar talent they had returning. Guys like Matt Beniers, who's out in Seattle. Guys like Owen Power. Those are two number 1 and 2 overall draft picks on the same team. And it just, again, they were a very good team. I'm not denying that, but I think we were expecting more from the Sabres' young prospect. But the good news is he's coming to Buffalo probably at the end of this season. He may play 5 or 6 games down the stretch at the conclusion of his season in Michigan. I think that's good news. He had more time to develop. This is a guy that was still making mistakes at the college level this year, so it's going to take a while. And I think that's that's the key thing here with Owen Power, is it's going to take time. You have to be patient. Guy like Eric Johnson, perfect example. A first overall pick that didn't play the following season, And look what Eric Johnson became as a defenseman. He has become really one of the stronghold defensemen in the NHL. So I think that maybe not to the same extent, but Owen Power is going to need that same time. Look at Victor Hedman, who was a top 5 draft pick of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Look how long it took him to develop, and there was talks that he may be a bust, right? And we're kind of laughing and kidding ourselves now looking back, but it takes time. And especially on a Sabres team like this, it's important that they keep Dahlin. It's important they keep some of these other guys because it's something for Power to build around. And I think that's really going to be a key thing this year for the Sabres. So now this is the juice, the meat of this video today from Elliot Friedman. The Rangers checked in on Victor Olofsson, but they aren't expected to go down that route. So basically, this kind of sounds like just the Rangers are big game hunting. I've heard a lot of rumors about the Rangers being in the mix for Philip Forsberg, who is a superstar forward in Nashville. He won't be re-signed, so that's a name that's been thrown out there. The captain of the Philadelphia Flyers, the Rangers' rival Claude Giroux, has been also linked to the New York Rangers. So again, it's just we haven't heard much about Olofsson since then. I think the Sabres have kind of tried to shut that down. But that's definitely an interesting development. Again, it's one of those things we always, it's kind of a cliche around here, but when there's smoke, there's fire. So there's something to that. Whether it's completely true or false, there's something to that rumor. So we'll see if it sticks or not in the next month here, in the next 3 weeks up until the deadline. So now we're hearing a little bit more about Robert Hagg in terms of what teams may be interested in Robert Hagg. The Flames, Oilers, and Predators have been linked to defenseman Robert Hagg. I think all those teams that make sense. Daryl Sutter over in Calgary, a very LA Kings type of player in Robert Hagg. I'm surprised he wasn't drafted by the Kings during the Daryl Sutter era. So there's definitely a fit there. The Oilers, I think the Oilers' defense is just not as good as we thought they were. And unfortunately, it's kind of made they're kind of in a spot where they need to make the playoffs this year. So Ken Holland's going to be looking for guys here at the deadline. The Predators is interesting because of how good they were at the end of 2021. They were first in the Central Division. And now we start to see them regress a little bit as the St. Louis Blues and obviously the Colorado Avalanche have kind of taken to form. It sounds like, the Predators are kind of asking themselves again, where are we? Are we a legitimate playoff team? Or are we a team that's on the bubble, maybe just making it in through the wild card? So that's kind of the situation there. I could definitely see that being a fit there with John Hines. And that's really it. So getting back to Victor Olofsson, I think that's really the main point of today's video. So this is another, so from Elliot Friedman, the Rangers have looked at Buffalo's Victor Olofsson, but I don't believe they can handle his projected new deal. And again, that's going into the mindset that you have to re-sign Alexis Lafreniere next summer, Kaapo Kakko this summer. You just gave that monster contract to Adam Fox. You still have Artemi Panarin, Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad. The last three guys I mentioned, they take up 30% of the Rangers' cap hit. They're not going to have the money for Victor Olofsson this summer. Again, unless something happens where we see Kaapo Kakko or some other guy go the other way, that would be alleviating some salary. There's just no way that works. So it has been a rocky season for Sabres winger Victor Olofsson. After putting up 17 points in his first 20 games, that's pretty impressive. He has struggled to produce with just 7 points in his last 24 games while struggling to stay healthy. He is owed a $3.25 million qualifying offer this summer, which I don't think that will be too difficult for him to get. Lance Lasowski of the Buffalo News wonders if that may be too pricey for Buffalo Sabres GM Kevin Adams. It's not that they don't have the cap space to make such an offer, they certainly do, but would it be worth qualifying him if the spot on the depth chart he's earmarked for isn't one that's worth that much money? Basically, they're saying that guys like Jean Gabriel, what's his name? Jean J. Peterka, you're looking at maybe some of those other guys kind of coming up. Maybe Victor Olofsson isn't in the top 6, and that's not something they want to pay a guy that's going to be in the bottom 6 that they don't think he's worth. he's earmarked for isn't that worth that much money. In that scenario, Olofsson would be an overpriced contract next season, which wouldn't help his trade value. Accordingly, the 26-year-old could be a name to keep an eye on over the next few weeks if they decide that they're better off moving him now. So that is something that we have to look at. So again, there's obviously something to this. There's a little bit of merit to this rumor here. And I think that's the thing you have to look at, is the Sabres are looking at going into this summer, going into next season, going really into the depth chart, who are going to be the wingers on the Buffalo Sabres. And maybe it isn't the guy that we're talking about today in Victor Olofsson. And maybe that's for the better, maybe it's for the worse. But let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think of the Buffalo Sabres maybe moving on from a guy like Victor Olofsson? What teams other than the New York Rangers do you think would be interested in his services? Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time.